The morning broke clean and quiet over the eastern ridge, painting long golden shadows across the dusty access road that snaked into my ranch complex. From the porch of my office cabin, an old timber-framed structure I'd reinforced and renovated myself, I could see the entire sprawl. Several log-built units dotted the land like outposts of independence. My carpentry shed, a solar grid room, an office where I handled land leases, and a storage barn lined with heavy equipment. All of it mine, every building, every inch. I sipped my coffee and watched the sun crawl higher over the horizon, the kind of silence only earned through hard work and ownership. That's when the dust cloud appeared in the distance. A white SUV, blinding in the sunlight, kicked up gravel as it came down the main track. It didn't belong to any of my tenants or business associates. The seal on the door gave it away. Meadows HOA. My stomach tightened. Out stepped Karen Withers, president of the Oakfield Meadows Homeowners Association, and self-declared empress of the subdivision that lay just south of my northern tract. She strutted like she owned the land, clipboard clutched to her chest like a holy book, and a smug confidence etched deep into her face. I didn't need to ask what she wanted. "Good morning," I called out, keeping my tone even. Karen didn't bother with pleasantries. "You're operating an unregistered business on HOA-regulated land. You're in violation of Oakfield Community Code 6A, 4B, and 9C. I raised an eyebrow. "You think this office is part of Oakfield Meadows?" She blinked, thrown off by the calm in my voice. "This land falls within Oakfield jurisdiction. All properties within visual proximity to subdivision boundaries are subject to HOA review. That includes this complex." I set my mug down. "Karen, this building and the 6 acres surrounding it aren't within your HOA's jurisdiction. They never were," she scoffed. "That's what people say when they don't read the rules. I've read them. I've also read the deeds. This complex sits entirely outside your subdivision. Check the 2013 boundary annexation records." Karen stepped up to the porch, eyes flaring. "You're hosting construction crews. You've got tenants. You've got equipment. This isn't just a ranch, it's a business. And Oakfield doesn't allow unapproved commercial activity." I held her gaze. "Because Oakfield doesn't own this land, I do." Karen took a step forward as if to barge inside. I blocked the door with my arm. "You're not welcome here unless you have a warrant or an invitation. You have neither." Her jaw worked like she was chewing on a nail. "Then expect one soon. You'll be hearing from us. In fact," she yanked her phone from her bag, "you might hear from someone a little sooner." She spun on her heel and stomped back to her SUV, tires screeching as she drove off. Behind the porch screen, my German Shepherd, Duke, let out a soft growl. "Yeah, I know," I muttered. "This isn't over." Karen wasn't just a bureaucrat. On a power trip, she was the kind of person who thought a clipboard and a title gave her dominion over anyone with dirt on their boots and a little pride in their work. What she didn't know, what she refused to accept, was that her HOA had absolutely no legal hold on my property. None. This wasn't a suburban backyard she could bully her way into. This was my land, and she'd just tried to lay claim to it in front of God, me, and Duke. As the dust from her SUV settled, I walked back inside and pulled the thick manila folder from my desk drawer. Inside were land deeds, zoning maps, HOA boundary plats, and water rights agreements. I'd kept every paper, every stamped signature, every county-approved line. Karen had started a fire with that morning visit, and I had the gasoline. 3 days passed. Just enough time for Karen Withers to twist the truth into something sharper than a boundary dispute. I was mid-call with the supplier when I saw the red and blue lights flickering through the blinds of my office window. I hung up, stepped outside, and there they were, 2 sheriff cruisers idling at the gate. Karen stood beside them like a queen overseeing a siege, arms crossed, lips curled in satisfaction. This time she had backup. The taller deputy approached the gate. "Sir, are you Jeremiah McBride?" "I am," I said calmly, noting Karen's triumphant smirk behind him. "I'm Deputy Collins. We've received a 911 report about potential unauthorized occupation and unsafe structures on HOA-governed land. We need to inspect the premises." Karen stepped in before I could respond. "This man is in violation of multiple Oakfield codes. He's conducting unlicensed business operations, storing industrial equipment near residential areas. And get this, he refuses to comply with emergency directives." I tilted my head. "You called 911 over a property dispute?" Karen's eyes glimmered with theatrical offense. "You left me no choice." Deputy Collins lowered his voice. "We're just here to check things out. Would you mind showing me your property documentation?" I nodded, stepping back into the office. Karen tried to follow, but Collins stopped her with a firm hand gesture. "You'll need to wait outside, ma'am." Inside, I retrieved the same manila folder I'd prepared days ago. Every detail was neatly indexed: land deeds, zoning maps, the 2013 annexation filing, even a notarized utility agreement. Back on the porch, I handed the documents to Collins. He studied them carefully, flipping through each page with increasing unease. "This shows your property lies entirely outside Oakfield Meadows boundaries," he said slowly. According to this, the HOA has no authority here. I nodded. Exactly. This ranch complex was zoned as private development before Oakfield Meadows ever broke ground. Karen's got no claim here. Karen leaned over, trying to peek at the pages. This is outdated. I demand an updated assessment. The county should. Collins cut her off. Ma'am, unless you have legal proof this land falls under your HOA, we have no grounds to intervene. She turned redder than a sunburned tomato. He's disrupting the harmony of our community. Do you know how many complaints I've gotten about this place? The traffic, the noise from people who don't live here. I asked, arms folded, because the closest Oakfield home is 600 feet away, behind a line of trees and a livestock fence. Collins looked between us. At this point, this is a civil matter, not a criminal one. If you believe otherwise, Ms. Withers, you'll need to take it to court. Karen stood frozen, jaw clenched, nostrils flaring. She didn't expect this. But just so we're clear, I added, calling 911 for a non-emergency, especially to pressure property owners, is a misuse of emergency services. You're lucky he's being polite. Collins gave a subtle nod. Next time, ma'am, please contact the county office instead of dialing 911. Karen yanked her sunglasses down and stormed off without another word. The deputies followed her, back to their cruisers, the dust once again rising behind her like the smoke trail of a retreating army. Inside my office, I closed the folder and exhaled slowly. Duke, my shepherd, thumped his tail against the floor, sensing my mood. That wasn't just a failed power move. It was a declaration of war. I knew Karen. She wouldn't lick her wounds in silence. She'd regroup, spin a new story, rally her board, and come back with a vengeance. She couldn't stand the idea of someone being outside her control. The idea that I owned the land she thought she governed. Most of kept her up at night, but what she didn't understand, what she refused to believe, was that I'd built every inch of this place with my own hands, and every nail, every panel, every pipe had been approved by the county. Not her clipboard crew. Her HOA might have held sway over manicured lawns and paint colors on cul-de-sacs, but out here, she was trespassing in every sense of the word. I reached for the phone and called my attorney. We need to talk about restraining orders and utility rights. Because the next time Karen came knocking, she wouldn't be trying to shut me down, she'd be trying to save face. If Karen Withers couldn't win with rules, she'd resort to sabotage. By the following week, she'd unleashed a campaign of HOA-fueled theatrics designed to harass, confuse, and choke my operations. Flyers appeared on Oakfield residents' doors, warning of illegal industrial activity at the northern boundary, claiming I was a safety hazard. Her newsletter even suggested I was hoarding commercial materials in violation of residential covenants, conveniently omitting the fact that my property lay completely outside their jurisdiction. It didn't stop at gossip. On Monday, that access road gate had been locked shut. Someone had replaced my padlock with a shiny new one stamped OMH for Oakfield Meadows HOA. Tuesday morning, my water pressure tanked. A quick inspection revealed someone had tampered with the shed line feeding both my tract and the HOA clubhouse. And by Wednesday, 2 anonymous complaints had landed on my desk, one to the zoning board, accusing me of running an unlicensed power facility, and another to the county health department, alleging livestock waste runoff contaminating HOA soil. The pettiness would have been comical if it hadn't disrupted 3 client meetings, cost me a day of labor, and left my livestock parched during a heat advisory. But Karen made one crucial mistake. She assumed I'd take it lying down. That afternoon, I got to work. First, I called my drone operator Brent, a local tech whiz who'd helped me film property boundaries for insurance purposes years ago. Within hours, his team flew over the entire northern tract, capturing crisp footage of every fence, structure, pipe, and meter from 400 feet in the air. The distinction was crystal clear. Oakfield's clean-cut homes ended exactly where my pinewood fence began. Next, I compiled every document Karen thought I'd never keep. Permits, zoning variances, boundary maps with GPS overlays, even the 2013 annexation file with her signature as a community witness. It took me 6 hours to scan, sort, and upload it all into a sleek, time-stamped digital file. Then came the final touch, a short video I edited together myself. 60 frames per second, licensed background score, aerial transitions from Brent's drone footage, and my voice calmly narrating the facts. This is my land. This is not Oakfield Meadows. This ranch complex predates the HOA, and every attempt to claim it, block it, or sabotage it is not only false, it's illegal. I posted the video on a private link and emailed it to the HOA board, not Karen, the board. I also sent copies to the zoning office, the county utilities department, and my attorney. The real blow came the next morning. A new sign appeared at the entrance of the main access road, professional-grade aluminum, bold black letters on brushed silver. Welcome to Oakfield Complex, privately owned, independently managed, not affiliated with Oakfield Meadows HOA. Beneath that, smaller but just as sharp, for road use, water service, or leasing inquiries, contact J. McBride, landowner. Karen saw it within the hour. I watched from the porch as her white SUV was skidded to a stop in front of the sign. She got out, stared at it like it had personally insulted her, and then tore it down with both hand splinters flying. I stepped off the porch. As ever, that's private property, and caught on camera. Karen whipped around. You're trying to undermine the HOA's authority. No, I said, I'm correcting it. You're manipulating public perception. People are asking if they even have to follow HOA rules. Any if you're exempt, why can't they be? That's not my problem, Karen, it's yours. Maybe next time, don't start a land war without reading the map. Her fists clenched at her sides. This isn't over, it is for you, I replied. You picked the wrong man to bully, and the wrong land to trespass on. She stormed back to her SUV, hands shaking, tires screeching in retreat. But the damage had been done, not to me. To her, word spread fast. A few Oakfield residents began contacting me quietly, asking about the legal difference between my land, and as others showed up at the gate, curious about leasing one of my office units. The county utility rep called to confirm my sole ownership of the waterline and asked if I'd like to revise the HOA's usage rate. I said yes. Karen had tried to squeeze me out. Instead, she'd squeezed herself into a corner. The final blow came not from a hammer or a lawyer, but from a county projector and a stunned silence. The zoning hearing took place inside a drab municipal building, walls lined with faded state flags and folding chairs, but the crowd that filled it, electric. HOA members, local landowners, a handful of Oakfield residents looking confused, concerned, or quietly hopeful. At the front sat Karen Withers, flanked by 2 HOA board members. Her lips were pursed so tightly they practically vanished into her face. Her clipboard was back, clutched like a sword. I stood across the aisle with my attorney, calm and ready. Behind me was the map. The projector glowed to life as the county zoning officer pulled up aerial overlays of Oakfield Meadows, and my track zoomed, annotated and crystal clear, based on property records from 2012 to present. The official began. The northern development, known as the McBride Complex, is legally exempt from Oakfield Meadows' HOA jurisdiction. It was annexed before Oakfield's charter was even filed. Gasps fluttered through the gallery. Karen leapt to her feet. That's not true. The HOA borders were redrawn in 2016. We have updated covenants. The zoning officer adjusted his glasses, and those covenants specifically exclude the northern tract. Page 8, Section 3. Karen spun toward her board members. One wouldn't meet her eyes. The other was already flipping through a thick binder, panic dawning across his face. I stepped forward. For the last month, I said, my voice steady, this HOA has falsely accused me of code violations, trespassed on my property, disrupted utilities, and even called emergency services to forcibly shut down my operations, or based on authority they never had. I paused and let the silence build. My property is not governed by Oakfield. I'm not a member, and their actions aren't just aggressive, they're unlawful. The county's legal advisor nodded. Mr. McBride's documentation is complete. As of today, we formally recognize the McBride Complex as an independent development district. Furthermore, we will launch an investigation into the HOA's misuse of emergency services and possible tampering with county-monitored utilities. Karen's mouth dropped open, then snapped shut like a steel trap. Her clipboard hit the floor with a hollow clack, effective immediately. The zoning officer continued. Oakfield Meadows HOA is ordered to cease all contact or interference with Mr. McBride's property. Any future disputes must be handled through official legal channels. A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. And just like that, the storm Karen had stirred up for weeks broke apart, leaving her stranded at the center. Outside the courthouse, I stood by the truck, answering questions from a few nearby residents. Some were curious, others embarrassed, but many just seemed relieved. Is it true you're leasing office units now? One asked quietly. I nodded. I've got space, and I don't fine people for putting up wind chimes or planting tomatoes. That earned a few smiles across the parking lot. Karen shoved her clipboard into the back of her SUV. Her board members walked 10 steps behind, silent and shrinking. But this wasn't about humiliation, it was about clarity. I didn't build this ranch complex to challenge a homeowners association. I built it to create something solid, something mine. But when Karen tried to turn power into a weapon, she exposed the fragility of her own authority. She thought she was untouchable behind her bylaws and clipboards, but authority doesn't come from paper, it comes from truth. Weeks later, a new sign appeared along the road near Oakfield's main gate. Future site of McBride West, independent ranch-style offices and custom homes. No H, and beneath it, a simple tagline. Freedom starts with land you own. That land, I'd purchased it quietly the month before, the very edge of Oakfield Meadows, just enough to show the residents they had a choice. Karen, she resigned within days of the announcement. No press release, no farewell letter, just gone. The clipboard, never seen again.